The function of muscle is to pull and not to push, except in the case of the genitals and the tongue. As every divided kingdom falls, so every mind divided between many studies confounds and saps itself. There are four powers: memory and intellect, desire and covetousness. The two first are mental and the other sensual. The three senses, sight, hearing, and smell, cannot well be prevented. Touch and taste, not at all. The human bird shall take his first flight, filling the world with amazement, all writings with his fame, and bringing eternal glory to the nest whence he sprang. Medicine is the restoration of discordant elements. Sickness is the discord of the elements infused into the living body. Men of lofty genius, when they are doing the least work, are most active. Men of lofty genius sometimes accomplish the most when they work least, for their minds are occupied with their ideas and the perfection of their conceptions, to which they afterwards give form. Beyond a doubt, truth bears the same relation to falsehood as light to darkness. Life well spent is long. The senses are of the earth. The reason stands apart from them in contemplation. The natural desire of good men is knowledge. You can have no dominion greater or less than that over yourself. Time abides long enough for those who make use of it. Necessity is the mistress and guide of nature. Necessity is the theme and inventress of nature, her curb, and her eternal law. Knowledge of the past and of the places of the earth is the ornament and food of the mind of man. Human subtlety will never devise an invention more beautiful, more simple, or more direct than does nature, because in her inventions nothing is lacking and nothing is superfluous. To such an extent does nature delight and abound in variety that among her trees there is not one plant to be found which is exactly like another. And not only among the plants, but among the boughs, the leaves, and the fruits, you will not find one which is exactly similar to another. Experience never errs. It is only your judgments that err by promising themselves effects, such as are not caused by your experiments. You do ill if you praise, but worse if you censure what you do not understand. It is better to imitate ancient than modern work. He who wishes to be rich in a day will be hanged in a year. Just as courage is the danger of life, so does fear its safeguard. I have wasted my hours. I have found that in the composition of the human body, as compared with the bodies of animals, the organs of sense are duller and coarser. Thus, it is composed of less ingenious instruments, and of spaces less capacious for receiving the faculties of sense. All knowledge which ends in words will die as quickly as it came to life, with the exception of the written word, which is its mechanical part. In order to arrive at knowledge of the motions of birds in the air, it is first necessary to acquire knowledge of the winds, which we will prove by the motions of water in itself. And this knowledge will be a step enabling us to arrive at the knowledge of beings that fly between the air and the wind. The poet ranks far below the painter in the representation of visible things, and far below the musician in that of invisible things. The truth of things is the chief nutriment of superior intellects. Although nature commences with reason and ends in experience, it is necessary for us to do the opposite. That is, to commence with experience, and from this to proceed to investigate the reason. Our body is dependent on heaven, and heaven on the spirit. Painting is concerned with all the 10 attributes of sight, which are darkness, light, solidity and color, form and position, distance and propinquity, motion and rest. There is no object so large, but that at a great distance from the eye, it does not appear smaller than a smaller object near. It seems that it had been destined before that I should occupy myself so thoroughly with the vulture, for it comes to my mind as a very early memory. When I was still in the cradle, a vulture came down to me. He opened my mouth with his tail and struck me a few times with his tail against my lips. Good men by nature wish to know. I know that many will call this useless work. Men who desire nothing but material riches and are absolutely devoid of that of wisdom, which is the food and only true riches of the mind. How many emperors and how many princes have lived and died, and no record of them remains, and they only sought to gain dominions and riches, in order that their fame might be everlasting. The length of a man's outspread arms is equal to his height. Each man is always in the middle of the surface of the earth, and under the zenith of his own hemisphere, and over the center of the earth. The Metasai created and destroyed me. I have always felt it is my destiny to build a machine that would allow man to fly. For, verily, great love springs from great knowledge of the beloved object, and if you little know it, you will be able to love it only little or not at all. Experience does not err. Only your judgments err by expecting from her what is not in her power. Man and animals are in reality vehicles and conduits of food, tunes of animals, hostels of death, coverings that consume, deriving life by the death of others. The divisions of perspective are three, as used in drawing. Of these, the first includes the diminution in size of opaque objects. The second treats of the diminution and loss of outline in such opaque objects. The third of the diminution and loss of color at long distances. The painter who draws merely by practice and by eye, without any reason, is like a mirror which copies everything placed in front of it, without being conscious of their existence. Weight, force, and casual impulse, together with resistance, are the four external powers in which all the visible actions of mortals have their being and their end. Many are they who have a taste and love for drawing, but no talent, and this will be discernible in boys who are not diligent and never finish their drawings with shading. The spirit desires to remain with its body, because, without the organic instruments of that body, it can neither act nor feel anything. Jump, and you will find out how to unfold your wings as you fall. There are worse crimes than burning books. One of them is not reading them. If we listen to our intellect, we'd never have a love affair. We'd never have a friendship. We'd never go into business because we'd be cynical. Well, that's nonsense. You've got to jump off cliffs all the time and build your wings on the way down. Stuff your eyes with wonder. Live as if you'd drop dead in 10 seconds. See the world. It's more fantastic than any dream made or paid for in factories. Love. Fall in love and stay in love. Write only what you love and love what you write. The key word is love. You have to get up in the morning and write something you love, something to live for. I don't try to describe the future. I try to prevent it. Don't think. Thinking is the enemy of creativity. It's self-conscious, and anything self-conscious is lousy. You can't try to do things. You simply must do things. Science fiction is any idea that occurs in the head and doesn't exist yet, but soon will, and will change everything for everybody, and nothing will ever be the same again. As soon as you have an idea that changes some small part of the world, you are writing science fiction. It is always the art of the possible, never the impossible. I hate all politics. I don't like either political party. One should not belong to them. One should be an individual, standing in the middle. Anyone that belongs to a party stops thinking. We are an impossibility in an impossible universe. You won't have to burn books to destroy a culture. Just get people to stop reading them. I know you've heard it 1,000 times before, but it's true. Hard work pays off. If you want to be good, you have to practice, practice, practice. If you don't love something, then don't do it. You must stay drunk on writing so reality cannot destroy you. Living at risk is jumping off the cliff and building your wings on the way down. Video games are a waste of time for men with nothing else to do. Real brains don't do that. I spent 3 days a week for 10 years educating myself in the public library, and it's better than college. People should educate themselves. You can get a complete education for no money. At the end of 10 years, I had read every book in the library, and I'd written 1,000 stories. We are cups, constantly and quietly being filled. The trick is knowing how to tip ourselves over and let the beautiful stuff out. If you don't like what you're doing, then don't do it. After Hiroshima was bombed, I saw a photograph of the side of a house with the shadows of the people who had lived there burned into the wall from the intensity of the bomb. The people were gone, but their shadows remained. Every morning I jump out of bed and step on a landmine. The landmine is me. After the explosion, I spent the rest of the day putting the pieces together. Everybody has forgotten that Russia helped start the Second World War. Touch a scientist and you touch a child. A book has got smell. A new book smells great. An old book smells even better. An old book smells like ancient Egypt.